Hi, I'm Allison Irita, and we are
Halo Circus!
A few months back, our fans gave us an incredible tour, 30 cities, and San Diego is one of our last stops.
We love San Diego. We've played there a few times. It's close to our hometown of Los Angeles, and we wanted to do something really special. So when we were looking at venues, we came across this place, the Irenic, which is not only an amazing venue, it's this old converted church. It's a great club. We found out that they're involved in this youth homeless shelter, along with Urban Street Angels and 8 West.
We got Creature Canyon.
Yes.
And Ocelot.
It's going to be amazing. You guys, we hope to see you there. The Intellectual Podcast will be there representing. And let's make this a beautiful night of celebration and awareness. November 10th, the Ironic Theater, 7 p.m. We hope to see you.
Yeah!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 175th episode of the Intellectual Podcast. I'm your host, David Dawson. Thank you for joining us once again. Hey, it was a great night Thursday night at the Museum of Photographic Arts there in Balboa Park, where we celebrated Our Barrio, the new film from Ryan Kaufman and Yvette Angulo. Absolutely beautiful film, wonderful picture, and just a great night celebrating San Diego filmmakers. Not just Ryan and Yvette's film, but we showed a number of clips and trailers from various films that have been shot here in San Diego, and I had the pleasure of sitting on stage and chatting with all of the filmmakers who came for the night, and it was wonderful, and there was a really good turnout, and I'd like to say a personal thank you to everybody who came out that night. Supporting local film is a wonderful thing, and the enthusiasm and the intelligence when we opened up the floor to audience questions, I was really impressed by the quality of questions that came from the audience Thursday night. So thank you very much to Ryan and Yvette for giving me the opportunity to be a part of their special evening. It was a delightful experience, and I'm really happy that I was able to be a part of that. And we've already posted some footage from the red carpet with Mark Atkinson hosting. Some of it's really funny, and make sure you check that out on our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/intellectual network. This Thursday night, we've got Allison Irita and Halo Circus coming into town. They'll be playing at the Irenic. Allison Irita's critically acclaimed bilingual alt-rock band Halo Circus is coming to San Diego and bringing their Say It Loud event to San Diego for a night of music and celebration to raise awareness for youth homeless in San Diego. They're pleased to join forces with us, San Diego's own podcast, The Intellectual, to raise awareness for the Irenic's Youth Homeless Center and the Urban Street Angels. You can get more information on 8 West and Urban Street Angels at 8west.org and urbanstreetangels.org. And they're asking everyone to bring canned food or clothing to the event to benefit the youth homeless shelter and to help prepare the youth who are unfortunate enough to be homeless this time of year for winter. Halo Circus is a critically acclaimed alternative rock band fronted by American Idol alum Allison Irita, who has been a guest on this show twice in the past. And they've been making history by taking over the country with their very first ever fully crowdfunded 30-city U.S. tour. They also made history with 645,000 downloads in the first 4 days of their release of their latest single, Desire, Lo que vale la pena, from their much-talked-about new album, Bunny, which is an unbelievable album. I highly suggest you go out and get it off of iTunes or wherever you buy your music today. They hand show San Diego's on rock favorite Creature Canyon, who have been making their own ways up and down the West Coast, to open up the evening along with San Diego favorites Ocelot. Tickets are only $10 in advance and $15 at the door. The venue is open to all ages, so make sure you come out. You can find a link to tickets at halocircus.com, and we hope to see you there Thursday night, 7 p.m. at the Irenic here in San Diego. And now, we're going to get right into the 175th episode of the Intellectual Podcast with kind of our next to last interview. from New York City, a truly fascinating woman named Pamela Wess, who is a juggler and a clown and an actress and director and just all around incredible person. So enjoy this chat. We sat at One Penn Station, just outside of Madison Square Garden in the shadow of the Empire State Building, as we had this chat and got to know each other. And yeah, I think you'll enjoy it as much as I did. So here it is, Pamela Wess on the 175th episode of the Intellectual Podcast.
Talk hard and enjoy the mindgasm. The Intellectual Podcast starts now.
San Diego is where I've lived most of my life.
Uh-huh.
But I was actually born in Pocatello, Idaho.
In Idaho?
Yeah, which is weird.
That's a place.
So it's fun. I get stopped by immigration in San Diego all the time because I look Mexican.
Right.
So I'm half Filipino.
And oh, my God. That's
my
funny.
favorite thing to say to them is, well, I was born in Pocatello, Idaho. Is it because I'm almost Canadian, eh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't speak a lick of Spanish, but I get pulled over for looking Mexican all the time.
Wow.
So, I didn't start encountering that until I moved to Texas, actually, for college.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever.
My little sister has my complexion, and she fights wildfires. And she was on her wildfire tour. They're stationed in Arizona. And someone asked her, "Are you a Mexican?" And then he said, "Obama is the president of ISIS, right?"
Oh, my God.
So we got one. Are you like as pale as I am?
Ignorance abound.
Yeah. Real special.
So, Pamela, do you go by Pam or just...
Most people call me Pam.
Pam?
Yeah.
Don't look like you enjoy that.
I just don't. I don't have an opinion.
No?
No. My family calls me Pamela. My friends call me Pam, and like, I answer by both.
I've had to grow accustomed to people calling me Dave because I didn't like it growing up. Mm-hmm. But inevitably, that's what everyone as an adult wants to call me.
Really?
My family never called me David or Dave. Mm-hmm. I was called Bubba growing up by everybody, and now my nephews call me Uncle Bubba, and I think some of them still don't even know what my real name is.
Do you prefer that over Dave?
I like being called Uncle Bubba. Mm-hmm. It's nice. I don't know that I'd want to be called that professionally. It'd be a little weird on a film set. Hey, yo, Uncle Bubba, can you give me my direction, please?
And it depends on which film set.
Well, I guess. I guess so.
Yeah.
So, you are the rarity in my interviews here in New York in that you're more a filmmaker than a theater person.
Yes.
So, let's start there. How did you get into making film?
I think it probably happened when I was around 12. I went to Beatles Fest, and I did Beatles laser karaoke. My mom says, "Wow, you really don't have problems humiliating yourself. You should be an actress." And then, so that steered me toward the arts. But then freshman year high school, I took my first film studies class, and I had no idea that decisions were being made. And I think that just like really inspired me. So I got into making film in high school, but we didn't really have the resources to make film. So I was just always like kind of a creative writer type person. And then I chose Bard College in upstate New York because I actually wasn't sure if I wanted to do theater or film. And then went up there freshman, and you didn't have to choose. It wasn't like NYU where you had to send a portfolio.
Right.
So I took a theater class my first year. Then I took a film class, and the same thing happened with the film class. It was intro to the aesthetics of film, and I had no idea what the hell that meant. It was such like a Bard thing. I met the professor, and he said, "What films did you watch in high school?" And I said, "Oh, like The Godfather, classics." And he said, "Oh, well, that's bad enough. This is the aesthetics of film."
Nice.
And I just didn't even understand what that meant. But then I was kind of blown away. It was the first time I saw a silent film, like a Chaplin or a Buster Keaton film. We watched Un Chien Andalou, which also blew me away, by Salvador Dali and Louis Buñuel. And just the same thing happened again. I was so inspired by the amount of thought and the decisions being made behind it that it seemed clear to me that it was film and not theater.
Yeah.
Even though I still retain a very strong love of theater, and I think I found where I personally belong in theater, but Yeah.
It's not your preference.
It's not.
It's like I love theater,
Yeah.
but I was talking with Margaret He earlier, and it's like, as an actor, I don't know how I could ever do theater, like to do the same show night after night after night.
Well, I was
I
actually...
did it in college, and it drove me kind of nuts.
I had a moment like that, too, where I was in this, what they call a devised piece, and that's when I guess you kind of create it as you go along. It was starring a clown teacher of mine. She wrote it. It was about kind of like a shut-in who is attacked by an army of pants and skirts who all want to be warned. And
hold on a second. I'm just going to paint a picture for everybody because there's no way they can't hear those sirens. We're sitting outside a New York Penn Station, right outside Madison Square Garden, in the shadow of the Empire State Building, having our discussion on a very pleasant day. But the sounds in New York are going to be all over the background of this podcast. So just
it's also weird. They're trying to make an oasis in the middle of probably the... Can I curse? The shittiest place in New York City. Like the most shitty place to spend any time. They're trying to make it into like a nice place. Yeah,
so they shut down the road. This is what, 33rd Street? They shut down 33rd Street between 7th and 6th and 7th and 8th. And tried to turn it into a nice seating area, whatnot. But it's still just a street outside of Madison Square Garden. It's not
right.
Like they could use some more plants.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess this woodwork is nice.
It gives you some oxygen to breathe. But I had a similar experience to you where I was in the show and we were puppeteers, and I had a moment where I thought, there are so many fucking people out in the audience. How am I supposed to pretend I don't see them? This is ridiculous. This makes no sense. At least in film, you really can't see them.
Right.
Of course, there's all this artifice in film, but I think that's why clowning specifically appeals to me in theater versus acting.
Clowning?
Yeah.
So are you a trained clown?
I think you can say that now. Yes, I'm a trained clown.
You can say that now?
Yeah, I've been taking about 2 years worth of classes. So
nice.
Yeah, and various aspects of clowning and different kind of theories of clowning as well, because there are many clowns.
Well, it's interesting. My new co-host Whitney, she's had some clown training, and it's funny. I know enough about clowning to know that there's a lot more to it than just somebody puts on a pair of big shoes
and
goes out.
I've had many a brilliant teacher with many different theories, and they say that clown is more of a verb than a noun. It's how you solve a problem as clowning.
Okay.
So, for example, I had this teacher set up a chair next to a table, and there's a coffee mug that was just out of his reach. And instead of acting like a normal person, like reaching over and taking it, he just lifted the entire table up so the coffee mug would slide toward him. And that's clowning to him. So whenever I create a clown act, I set out to do a task, but then I create a problem. And then how I solve it is clowning.
So creating a more abstract solution to a simple problem?
Kind of. Or it becomes... I've kind of been using clowning as a way to deal with failure and like the fear of failure. So I've discovered that everyone apparently kind of has a specific clown character, and my clown character always comes out to show off a skill that she has. Like she wants people to see like how awesome this thing she's about to do is, and inevitably there's a problem and she can never actually do it. Like I'm planning one where I'm going to show off I can do the opening of 42nd Street just as good as any girl on tour, any girl on Broadway. I can do that opening tap number just as good. But while I'm doing it, my pants start falling down. So it becomes about me actually trying to keep my pants up. It's like a good ego check, I think. That's great. Yeah.
That's fantastic. How did you decide to do clowning stuff? Like
I think,
what moved you in that direction?
So... after I did my senior project at Bard, which was a 35-minute film, it was a crazy like dance theater film in a way. I had an ensemble of 30 people. It's
a big film.
It was epic for a college student. Had so many problems, but of course, because it's a student film, and at Bard, they say, here's a camera, go. They don't teach you any real skills.
Yeah, well, that seems to be most film schools.
Right. So I graduated from college just deciding I wanted to be a dancer at Disney World. But then I went to some auditions and realized that to be a dancer in New York City, that's a much different thing than anything in this world.
Right.
And then my mom said, I think you're ignoring your instinct. You just want to make films. And I thought, okay, you're right. So for 6 years, I specifically dedicated myself as a filmmaker. But I was taking more dance classes than any dancer I knew. Every week I would take like 3 to 4 dance classes religiously. And then one day I went to Vegas with my mom to see Love, the Beatles, Cirque du Soleil. I think that's like the 4th time the Beatles have come up in this.
Yeah, it's a recurring theme in the discussion with you.
First Cirque du Soleil show I saw, didn't actually really like it that much, but we saw Mystère on a whim the next day, which is, I'm not sure if you know Vegas at all, but it's...
yeah. I only live like 4 hours away from Vegas.
That's true, but we saw Mystère. We were moved from the back row to the front row, and then this guy came out, and he was this 82-year-old man who was just ushering people to the wrong seats.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, oh, wow, that's so scary. I can never do that. And then I thought, that's actually so scary. I want to do that. And I think the whole cast was playing to me, too, probably because I was the only person awake. Like I turned around thinking, like, oh, my God, everyone's sharing this amazing experience with me. And I saw there are audience members who are asleep right now. Yeah, we just and it just kind of, I want to say it expanded my artistic trajectory. So I didn't just, like, I got into kind of like a Google YouTube search, and I saw that there was like job listings, clowns, and physical actors, and I just didn't know that was a medium that existed.
Right.
And then I thought, I've never been an actor. I've never been a dancer. My favorite class in college was actually mask work.
Yeah.
So I thought, I should pursue this. And that's, I mean, that's
I love that comment. That looks terrifying. I should do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's I think that's fantastic. One of the things we talk about on this show all the time is conquering fears and understanding that doing things that make you frightened or scared means you're actually attempting something.
Well,
You're reaching, you're striving to do something. Because if you're not afraid, you're not pushing boundaries. And you're not really propelling yourself forward. You're just kind of treading water.
You're coasting, and that's a really dangerous place for, I think, an artist to be. I had a clown teacher this summer who said, fear is excitement without breathing. So I did an open mic last week, and it's been a while since I've performed, and all this performing is very new to me, especially performing as like an exposed individual by yourself. And I kept on breathing that whole day, saying like, I'm excited. I'm excited. Like, no, I'm not. I'm not excited. I'm like hyperventilating. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So in filmmaking, are you a performer? Are you a director? Are you a writer?
Director and writer.
Director and writer.
Yeah.
What is it that made you go into directing and writing as opposed to performing in film?
That's interesting. I mean, probably a combination of a lot of things. I think again, kind of referring back to who my clown character turns out to be, I think deep down secretly, I always wanted to be a Broadway gypsy. You know, like a dancer, like one of those beautiful dancers who just dance in shows, doing great dancing. And then my mom definitely said, and this is not to discredit anyone who does that, because that is a tough, tough gig, and I have all the respect for people who do that. She said, I just think you're more than that. I don't think you're the person who is told what to do. I think you're the person who creates the things to do.
Right.
And in college, I hooked up with a bunch of people who decided to create like student-run musical theater. And I'm pretty sure the club is still there, the Bard Musical Theater Club, because musicals were like not done at Bard. And I always choreographed and directed. I just feel like I seem better suited to being behind the camera than in front of it, at least in film. That's not to say I would never do it, and I've done it. I've been in people's projects dancing or juggling or doing silly things, but
I think it helps as a director to have some performance experience.
I'm not exactly sure what drove me there, except that that's where I ended up.
It's power.
Yeah.
You want the power.
Right. I want to tell people what to do, which actually, that's not even... I feel like that's not even what directing really is.
No, it isn't.
It's communicating a vision.
Yeah.
And then
I like to think of it as a ship captain.
Yeah.
You're at the wheel. Mm-hmm. You're piloting, but everybody has to be working their lines.
Yeah.
Everybody has to be working the rigging.
Yeah.
And you all have to be working in conjunction with one another for the boat to go anywhere.
Right. You have to...
And you can't just stand there and bark orders at people. They have to be able to do that work on their own.
No, and film is a collaborative project, and every single person in every department is a respected artist unto themselves and a creator.
Yeah.
Like when I worked with Joy, the actress that you know now, she is such a creator unto herself. She's not someone who just is told what to do. She's someone who is actively creating a character, and that's not something I can do. And same thing with the people, the DP and the gaffer and the technical creative people. They are doing tasks that I can't do.
Right.
And I want to work with them because I think they come up with better ideas than me. Because sure, I could storyboard something, but I think they can storyboard it more creatively than me.
Right.
They're going to come up with better ideas than me. And that's why I would like to work with them.
Yeah, my dad used to say, hire the right person for the job, then get out of their way.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, I view directing like your first primary job as a director is being an employer.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to hire the right people. Mm-hmm. If you hire all the right people, then you don't really have to micromanage and babysit.
It's easy.
It becomes very easy once you've done the right. If you do the job right at the beginning, the rest of the job's easy.
Easy in a relative term, because the whole thing is very difficult.
Well, it's not brain surgery,
No,
nobody's going to die if your film doesn't quite work right.
No one will. No one will. Thank you for telling me that, because that's not how I approach things.
Well, It took me a long time to kind of get to that point and remind myself that, nothing is so at stake while I'm on a film set. And I should enjoy being on the film set.
Yeah.
Early on, it was always like, oh, it's pressure. Like, I was so wound up.
Yeah.
That it took me a while to figure out that if I was wound up, the whole crew was wound up.
Yeah. And sleeping is really important. Even if it's only 4 hours, you can get actually sleeping for those 4 hours. Really important. Like with On Women.
Thankfully, I'm an insomniac, so
that's not a thing.
It's not such an issue for me, but
I love sleep.
But I found that as I've been able to find more calm as a director, kind of the more relaxed everybody is on set. Mm-hmm. Even if I'm not barking orders, if I'm just tense, I find that tension kind of permeates throughout the group.
Do you ever have those moments as a director? Because I just shot a short film this summer where I looked at we come in as well prepared as we can. We have a shot list. We storyboarded this. But then you look at the lens and you just think, what? That is not what I...
That's not what I pictured at all.
No. And then you have that moment where you have to act in the moment and just think, I have no idea what to do right now. And everyone's kind of, well, what should we do,
and waiting for you to
Pam?
come up with something.
And I'm just standing there kind of silently, wishing I had a cookie and just wanting to scream, this is not the way I imagined it.
Yeah,
this
that's
doesn't
happened.
look right.
That's happened. What I like to do when I find that happen is I like to call, we're going to take 5 minutes and, everybody go get craft services, whatever, except my DP and like my sound guy and my AD. Let's have a chat.
Yeah.
And I just have a quiet chat with them. And I say, this isn't going the way I was hoping, I'm open to suggestions. Anybody got ideas? I try and collaborate with kind of my heads at a top level and not incorporate the whole party into that conversation.
See, I just told the actors, I said, okay, I think this shot is ugly. I didn't say that, but I thought it in my head. This shot's ugly. Can you guys just do the action? Let's just film it. Let's just film it. And they happened to do some things that I thought were so beautiful that it helped. And then I have to remind myself in film too that this shot that I perceive as ugly is not the film.
Right. It's just a moment.
This is going to be cut. We're going to edit this scene. But you think that, like, I don't know. I think there's such a tension when it's the first shot you're filming and you're just like, is this how my film's actually going to look? Oh God, is this right?
Do you primarily shoot stuff single camera?
Yeah, I haven't gotten to use 2 cameras yet.
I started shooting multicam probably 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Changed my life.
Really? That must be nice for continuity.
Well, it's nice for continuity, but I mean, aside from that, one of the things that I like to do is kind of let my actors do really long takes.
Uh-huh.
And if I'm shooting multicam, and I try to go 3 or 4 cameras if I can.
Damn.
So we're shooting a wide, a medium, 2 close-ups, like all at once.
Wow.
And it just really speeds process, but allows us to do long, continuous takes, which lets my actors kind of be in the scene. A lot more stage-like, because they get to really inhabit the moment instead of a bunch of little moments that we put together in the edit room.
On Women Part 1, or the film that you saw, is definitely actually mostly long takes.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Like cutting because we were underneath the landing strip for JFK that day. So there was definitely like hold for sound.
Right.
Action.
The first feature I produced, we were in San Diego. There's a kind of a triangle area where 2 of the major freeways split apart. And right in there is a railroad. So you got the trains that go by. And it's right in the flight path of Miramar Air Station. The Top Gun Air Station from the movie.
Oh.
So we shot this movie there through, it was like 27 days on the weekends over like, 3 months, 4 months. And it was constantly like, okay, hold for sound, wait for the train's gone, okay, roll camera, audio rolling. All right, slate, action. And the audio guy, wait for the plane. All right, let's wait for the plane. You hear a jet coming in the distance. Wait for that to go by.
Man,
it was the worst location.
I thought this film shoot was going to be kind of easy because I decided the style of the film is that it's kind of like a dance film, so we didn't capture any on-site sound. So, that makes things so much easier until we're at this point.
Right.
Oh, we need sound. We need to Foley this.
Right.
Who said they're going to Foley this? Uh-oh.
Oh. I guess that's on my shoulders.
I was like, gotta push that deadline back. Well, we'll do the festival next year.
There you go. Tell me a little bit about the film that I watched. It's on women who validate themselves
through sex. Yes.
It's a mouthful of a title.
It is.
But
the title's longer than the film.
It's a hilarious film.
Well, thank you.
It is available online, right?
Yes, on Vimeo.
On Vimeo?
Or PamelaWess.com. I just made my website.
Perfect. So I want my listeners to go and check this film out. Where did the idea for the film come from? Like, how'd you get inspired to do that?
I think on a very base level. I feel like sometimes you come up with the idea and then it's not for 5 years that you actually make the idea happen. I think on a very base level, back in college, I just had so many cool female friends who were just fucking awesome. But the guys it just seemed like they were on the sidewalk waiting with their legs in a spread eagle for any takers. So I
think we've all met girls like that.
Well, right. Or we've all been girls like that. So I think that's the visual inspiration for the film. And then you actually decide what would happen if I wrote this film. And it was a really interesting writing experience because that was the very basic level, but I consider myself a feminist, so I thought I'm kind of in dangerous territory here. I don't want anyone to think I'm anti-woman, so I was very much dancing around what I was trying to say for fear of offending people.
Right.
But then I thought about my comedic inspirations, and I thought, Monty Python didn't give a shit about offending people when they made Life of Brian.
There's a video of John Cleese online going around right now, a fairly recent video where he says, offending people is part of the job.
Right. And I thought it's probably because I'm a woman that I think I'm so afraid of offending people. And why should I have to give a shit? This is satire. And satire, You don't take sides. You hold up a mirror to society, you exaggerate it, and you show it back.
Right.
And so I thought, let's just show the most grotesque version of every person in that film. I don't think anyone comes out looking good. And I think what happened with the writing process is I would show a draft to my mom, and she would say, is this a conversation we just had? This sounds like the way you talk to me. So it's funny is I actually consider... I consider myself to be more like the girl talking. And yeah. I think I'm the one who's humiliating myself in the situation. More so than the girl on the ground. She seems fine. She's enjoying her life.
Well, that's an interesting take on it, because I identify from my own experience as a guy with the girl who's talking to the girl on the ground. Mm-hmm. I feel like, a bunch of my really cool guy friends are constantly out there playing the field, doing the stuff, and I think they're disgusting. A
lot of men in that film look like those guys, I assume.
Yeah, but I mean, if you just replace your two lead characters with two guys, like, guys go through the same sort of thing too. Right. Like, I'm a very conservative guy when it comes to dating and relationships and whatever, and I don't put myself out there, Right, so I totally identified with the girl on this,
and that's the punchline, putting yourself out there, but I actually 100% believe her.
But a lot of those people laying on the sidewalk seem to be enjoying their life and don't care what anybody else thinks either, so it's
right.
It's interesting. Both people look bad, but both people look good too in your film. It's
yeah.
I thought it was very balanced in the way it portrayed everybody, and it was very brave, I felt.
Thank you.
To do that film, and it's not something I think I could have done.
Yeah, it was funny going through it with the actresses, because we were coming up with very symbolic interpretations of it. We said, well, I think this is kind of a projection. You, Tess is the girl with the red hair who's talking. You're kind of projecting this image. This is what you're kind of seeing is happening. Like, you're just having a conversation with your friend, but this is what you perceive she's doing.
Right.
So I thought that was a really interesting interpretation that actually came back to me very recently. Someone asked me about the film, and they said that they gave me that interpretation of it. And I just thought, oh, yeah, I remember that was the interpretation.
It's nice when people see the same thing you were trying to convey.
Right. Or they come up with such a good interpretation where you're just like, yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yes. That was it. I don't know. When I also make things, I have my interpretation, but I feel like that shouldn't mean that people can't have their own.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's such an interesting thing, putting creative work into the world, because everybody's opinions, everybody's tastes are so different. You could put one piece of work out in the world. If you talk to 100 people, you're going to hear 100 completely different views on what was just watched,
My problem, my biggest fear is that people thought I would specifically be slut-shaming, like saying that it's a bad thing what the girl on the ground is doing. And in film festivals, I prepared my answer. Never came up.
Well,
Never came up.
I thought at first that's what was like that's where the film was going. Mm-hmm. But if you actually listen to the dialogue that's going on between those two girls, it's really not. It's not slut shaming.
No,
it's a very for as absurd and juvenile as the visual is in the film, the discussion is very adult and very mature about kind of these two different ways of approaching life and approaching social interactions. And I don't think the film, in my view, drew a conclusion one way or the other that one is better than the other.
I mean, that's what I love about satire. I mean, you inevitably pick a point of view with satire, but I took a really inspiring class this summer at a place called the Celebration Barn up in Maine, and it's a whole center for physical theater, and it's called bouffant. And bouffant is, I think in French it means to actually puff up.
Right.
And I could be misinterpreting this, but the legend of a bouffant is that you were a disgusting, ugly, horrible being that they cast to the outskirts of society. But from there you watched, and you came back to mock everyone with reckless abandon, mercilessly, and you never took a side. And that's the origin of satire in terms of theater and tropes and everything. And in this class, we were mocking everything. We were like domestic violence, the refugee crisis, and the teacher said, once I had a class do the Holocaust, and someone said, "You're horrible," an audience member, and he said, "We didn't make this up. We didn't make this up." The point of satire, and of course, this is a class. You eventually make a decision, like maybe it's not appropriate for the piece for this to happen.
Right.
You make a decision, like a moral decision, but the origin of the word grotesque is a mask-making term where the mask maker would pull the leather to the point of almost breaking it. And that's the point of satire, is that you're just pulling that image to the point of it almost breaking, and then you stop, and then you say, "This is what it is."
Right.
So I think it's one of my favorite mediums to work in.
Going forward, is that films like On Women Who Validate Themselves Through Sex? I got that out in the first go.
That was great.
Is that the type of film you want to be doing? Is that kind of heavy satire?
I don't know.
The focus?
I think I don't want to, because when I did say I'm this person, when I said I'm a filmmaker, that's it. I was putting blinders on and not allowing myself to be open to the potential of like other experiences. So I can't say that's what I do, because I don't know if that's what I do. The film I shot this summer is not a satire. It's the same title, On Women Who Validate Themselves Through Sex, Part 2.
Okay.
And it's actually, I would say it's a dramatic piece. It's examining the same theme, but in a completely different perspective. And there's mask work, there's physical theater work. It's just a very different film, and it's not funny. I hope it's not. It's not supposed to be.
Audiences will often surprise you when it comes to that.
There's definitely humor in it. There are moments where you will laugh, but it's not that medium. And also, I'm working on a feature right now, and that has, I don't think it's satire I work in. I think it might be absurdism more so that I work in. Just kind of, I like to place ridiculous situations in reality that are kind of, they tie into reality, but they are completely exaggerated.
Right.
So, I don't know. I
guess that would make sense with the clown connection and everything too.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the feature I'm working on, it's about a girl who manages a fast food place, a late 20s girl, and she writes pornographic fan fiction. Dedicated to her favorite comic book villain, the man with a knife. And one day she believes she's met the man of her dreams, but he's actually a predator using her stories to pretend he's the man of her dreams.
Oh, jeez.
So you have psychosexual thriller, I think is technically the way you might genre this, but it's also very much a black comedy. Like there's, maybe I shouldn't reveal the end, but there's a point where they have a high-speed red light chase because my folks moved to Connecticut, so I kind of was a Connecticut transplant, and I noticed there's a traffic light every block.
Right.
And I just decide that they need to have a car chase, but they're going to respect the rules of traffic. So they're going to stop at every red light respectfully. And there are so many of them.
Yeah, you like the absurd.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So did you say your parents were transplants from Connecticut?
I grew up in New Jersey. They moved to Connecticut when I went to college.
What part of New Jersey did you grow up in?
Central. So
what was that like?
It was actually a pretty diverse neighborhood. I grew up in a time where it still wasn't okay to be gay. I didn't know any openly gay people, but I was always a gay advocate.
Yeah.
Just as an example of how strangely conservative New Jersey can be. I lived on top of a mountain. There was like a bunch of farms near me, but still definitely like quintessentially the suburbs. I love diners. Connecticut does not have a single good diner. It's a fact. Connecticut doesn't have good malls either. Like, New Jersey's got that covered. And I just spent a lot of time in the city.
Yeah.
Like a lot of time in New York City. I feel like a lot of people in northern central Jersey feel an affinity with New York City, or if you're southern Philadelphia.
Right.
So Jersey was cool. I didn't want to stay there, but it was cool. It was fine.
It's funny. One of my co-producers, and he's occasionally a co-host on the podcast, Steve Schwartz, he grew up in Livingston. Mm-hmm. And he loves New Jersey, would never, ever move back there, but like always talks highly of New Jersey and just loves New York. Mm-hmm. And he's like super jealous that I'm here right now.
Do you love New York?
Do I love New York?
Or like New York, I have an opinion?
She asks as the sirens wail going by once again. I have spent, between the 3 trips to New York, I've now spent a little over 2 weeks in New York total.
Right.
There's a lot about this city that I really do like. Mm-hmm. I love visiting here. I don't know that I could live here. Mm. I'm very much a Cali kid. Yeah. I got that SoCal chill thing going, and stuff here just moves really fast.
It does.
24 hours a day.
It does.
I found myself Sunday night after the bombs and everything went off and whatnot. I was like, I'm just going to stay in my room for the next 24 hours. I'm just not going to go out. And I slept. I swear to God, I slept for like 18 hours. I was so tired because 6 or 7 days here just wore me out. Yeah. And so the bombs were a good excuse to stay home.
Like, I'm scared. Unlike any New Yorker, no one was really. No. Like last night I work at a restaurant for my day job, and I work in Battery Park City, which of course you think, like, as far away from, like, the World Trade Center would be right there for me.
Right.
Like, you can pass now. You can pass. Fire truck, pass. And then 7 fire trucks appeared on the corner. And I was working the patio, so I was right outside, and people were looking at me like, well, is she freaking out? Like, kind of the way you'll look at the flight attendant if there's turbulence, and you're like, well, should I be freaking out right now? They're not freaking out. They said, is this common? And I was like, I don't know. But it looks like if there's a problem, they got it covered. 7 fire trucks. And apparently the problem, this is a rumor.
The fire trucks are on the other side now.
What?
They've looped around.
How did that? Wow. See, and I'm just like, well, they must get it covered. Like, should I leave, or they got this?
Well, it's an interesting thing in New York. There are so many police just around all the time.
Yeah.
If one of them looks calm, I'm fine. if they all look panicked, then I think I'll have a problem.
This is a rumor, but apparently it was reported that there was a car in the Hudson River. And I don't know why 7 fire trucks needed to appear. We've all seen Batman, so if there's a bomb and it goes off under the water, we're fine. Sound science. And we were just thinking, how did the car even get there? That is very complicated for a car to like drive over the railing. Like it has to drive through a bunch of things too. And just how couldn't they get like
probably
one person?
Fairly deliberate,
right? Couldn't they get one person to see if it was true and then bring the 7 fire trucks if it is, and then if it isn't?
Well, I wonder how much of that is just like 7 people called 911.
Maybe.
And it was all separate calls, and they all just converged at the same time.
I mean, who knows? I'm not a firefighter. I can't tell them how to do their jobs.
We used to have that problem. I help run a soccer tournament in San Diego, and when cell phones became kind of the norm, it changed a lot of how we conducted ourselves at the fields, because we'd have 20 soccer fields going all at once. And somebody would hurt themselves on a field, and all of a sudden we'd have 4 ambulances arriving over the course of 10 minutes.
Wow.
Because they were all calling 911 on their cell phones from around the field. And we had to, like, educate and train people at the soccer tournament to not call 911 on our behalf.
Guys, it's okay.
We started just keeping an ambulance on site so people would avoid doing that. It's pretty funny.
I feel like every New Yorker kind of watches the thing being like, ooh, am I about to see an event?
I think everybody's looking to see if a stretcher comes wheeling out.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to see the tragedy. They just don't want to be a part of it.
Right. That happens a lot. Like not a lot, but if I'm walking and then I see someone's fallen, and people say, I saw someone like fall off a city bike in the middle of an intersection, and people say New Yorkers are so cold and mean, but the amount of people that came rushing to that human, and it makes you think, as I'm like, oh, my instinct is to do that as well, but if there's more than like 5, then I'm like, nah.
Yeah, give them space to breathe.
They've got it covered. The guy just fell off his bike. I think he's fine.
So do you love New York? You asked me, so I got to ask you.
I think so. I think New York is great, but I think it's the type of place that I would like to not be in for like 3 out of the 12 months of the year or something like that. If I could afford that luxury to have like a home in Arizona for
the winter months.
Yeah. Or like someplace to just
be a snowbird
here.
And just take off.
Yeah. Well, it's not even the winter. It's just like I would rather a place to leave during the summer, actually.
Yeah, summers are pretty unbearable here.
Yeah, it's
hot.
Just the
subways are hot.
The tourists. It's just
tourists.
The tourists.
Yeah.
I forget.
What, 12 million people in the city?
Yeah. Yeah,
and then you add tourists in the summertime?
You're just like, shut up. Get out of my way. I get it. Like, I get it. You're a tourist. You're in a place you don't understand. But God.
My buddy told me, you can tell the difference between a tourist and a New Yorker when you're walking down the street?
How?
I said, how? He says, only the tourists are looking up.
It's true. It's true.
He says, and they're a menace because they walk into everything.
Yeah. Well, I always tell people who aren't accustomed with New York and the way people walk, I said, walking to us is like driving to you. You have a fast lane, you have a slow lane, then you have that like motherfucker who you're tailgating, who you're like, get out of my way, like pull over if you're, the person's just going to stop and look at their cell phone. Like imagine if cars were doing that. This is our mode of transportation, walking. So if you're just going to stop if a car were to stop in the middle of the freeway to like check something, that would piss you the fuck off, I think.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Or you would kill someone, like actually, because they're cars and they're deadly. But
there's also a tail light to let you know that a car's about to stop.
Right.
I've walked into many people here in the last week just because they stopped right in front of me
just stepped
with
to the
no
side.
warning.
I think a lot of people feel this way, but when you see someone checking their cell phone while going down like the subway platform stairs, you just want to push them. You really, or maybe this is just a compulsion I feel, and I'm an awful person, but I just want to push that person down the stairs. I really do. And maybe that's such a New Yorker thing to say, but
yeah, we're a bit more gentle in our critique of people, I think, in California.
I would never do it. Like, I don't know. I was walking up some stairs to go to the subway, and a subway had just come in like a rush hour one. So a lot of people got off at the stop, and some girl just stopped at the top of the steps texting while a whole line of people were like, what the fuck are you doing? You don't do that there. Like, it's...
Well, I like the people who crowd the subway doors.
Oh, bum rush, yeah.
You know, the door's open, you're trying to get off, and 4 people are standing in your way trying to get in.
It used to be such a simple joy of mine coming home from work late at night, getting off the 2-3 train to get to the, when I lived in Astoria, the NQ, and people would bum rush the door, and just plowing through them was a pleasure of mine. Or like plowing through some French tourists who are just drunk and crowding the door when I had to get off, just completely giving that New York experience that they want of just this rude ass motherfucker. And they don't realize they're the rude ones. They're the ones being rude, blocking the exit door.
Right.
Yeah. Simple joys.
Yeah, it's yeah, I like visiting here. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that I could do it every day all year.
Yeah, I'm sometimes I kind of wish someone were to tell me you have to move sometimes. But then
you're a filmmaker. You should go to California.
I hear that. The problem is I don't want to go to
Atlanta.
California if I'm going to have to become a waitress there and start all over. I'd go to California gladly with a job.
Yeah.
Gladly. No, I have no problems with LA. I've spent 48 hours there. They were great. No, I'm not one of those like anti-LA New Yorkers. I have no problem with it. I just would not go there and do what I'm doing here.
Right.
You know, like starting, I would not go there to start over.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. Like,
yeah. I mean, I live in San Diego. I don't want to move up to LA unless I absolutely have to.
Yeah.
You know? I got a good thing going in San Diego. It's like,
right.
I just don't see the point in struggling in LA when I can just drive there from where I am.
How far away is San Diego?
Downtown San Diego to downtown LA is about 3 hours on a good day.
Uh-huh.
But I live kind of like right in between.
Oh, okay. So
it's about an hour. It's a little over an hour to San Diego from where I live, and
that's ideal.
About an hour and a half, 2 hours to LA. Mm-hmm. So it's not bad.
I love California. I do. I just
do the bi-coastal thing.
Yeah, I'll just do the bi-coastal thing.
You figure it out.
I'll just do it. That's how it works, right? You just do it.
Oh, that's how anything works, right? You just make the decision and figure it out.
Right. That's true.
Does it scare you?
I don't think scare is the word for that. I think it's more like I would be like, wait, what am I doing? Like, why did I make this decision?
Well, I was trying to see if it scared you, then it should be something you should do.
Right. I don't think, yeah. It seems like, because when I was in Maine this summer to do that clowning workshop, there was this teacher attracted a lot of gypsies, you know, a lot of people who kind of just live wherever for 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
I told the guy, that's really interesting. And he said, well, why don't you do it? And I thought, gee, it must be because I'm like scared and blah, blah, blah. That I just thought, because I don't fucking want to.
It's okay not to want to do something.
Right, I don't want to do that. That sounds terrible.
A couple years ago, a few years ago now, I took a year and just kind of like gave up everything that I was doing and like volunteer crewed on sailboats.
Nice.
And learned how to sail, and then spent the summer taking the train around the country and meeting up with different people who had sailboats on Lake Michigan and here in the Hudson and down in Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah.
And just volunteered on all these different sailboats.
Well, that
and
sounds fun.
Lived out of a backpack for like 2 months.
How'd that feel?
It was wonderful.
Uh-huh.
It was so liberating to take that experience and just run with it.
Yeah.
I probably would have kept doing it, except my mom got sick and I wanted to be home for her and help out the family. But I think it's good to go out and like, you don't need to like completely give up everything, but
Right.
go try something completely out of the norm for a little while. I think it's good to have those experiences once in a while, especially as a storyteller. The people I met, the situations I found myself in. You know, that was one of my trips to New York. You know, it was all highly educational from a storytelling standpoint.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And I feel like I've had experiences where I'm not sure if my dad will be listening to this, so I can't tell you some of the things I...
Dad, time to turn it off now.
I can't tell you the reason there's a conflict.
Apparently, you're not allowed to ride your bike through Penn Plaza.
Right. Okay, cool. Makes sense. It's a vehicle. I agree. I agree with that. No, I definitely had an experience for a year that was pure storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Now I'm supposed to say it.
You don't want to share it because your dad's listening?
My dad's going to listen. I can't.
Story for another time.
A story for another time when the mics are off. But my point is that like I 100% agree with you, and I think like the more you leave New York, the more you gain perspective on everything in the world.
It's really interesting because New York is such its own place.
It really is. Like even visiting Connecticut for 2 days just reminds you that New York might be like the most densely populated place. Like there's a shit ton of people, but it's America's a big country.
Yeah. Yeah.
The world is a big place.
America's a huge country, and Manhattan's only 2 miles by like 5 miles or something. It's
something ridiculously.
It's an itty bitty little tiny nook in the grand scheme of the United States.
But it's so big.
But you talk to New Yorkers, it's the whole world. You know, everything that matters is here in New York.
I'm actually planning a big California crawl next year.
Yeah?
Yeah. I want to... I got really, really stoned on my birthday and saw the National Parks movie at the Museum of Natural History. And my little sister works at a state park. She works at what America's voted the #1 cave.
Okay.
And it was in Arizona. Really inspiring. And I thought...
Which cave is that?
Kartchner Caverns.
Okay.
I guess a plug for Kartchner. I want to do a national parks tour. I
have done that.
Which ends with me getting fucked up in Vegas. It always ends with me getting fucked up in Vegas. You know, you see like some of God's wonders and then you get fucked up in Vegas.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a lot of national parks that circle all around Vegas. So it's real easy to do a whole bunch of national parks and finish there.
Yeah.
Are you aware of the National Parks Passport?
No.
When you go to a national park, some state parks carry them too. You go in and ask them for a National Parks Passport. And it looks like a very thick traveling passport. And when you open it up, it's got a map. It shows you like all the national parks in the country. And then the book is divided into these different regions of the country. And you can get stamps at all the different national parks that you go to.
That sounds great. And then you try to go to all of them?
Wonderful way to kind of document the trips that you're taking. And basically, you buy the book, and then the stamps are free everywhere you go. You know, so it's a fantastic thing. My dad got me and my sister on it years ago, and they've got a kind of smaller passport book and now a really big passport book.
So how many parks are there? Like, what's the number?
It's a couple hundred.
Wow.
Between the national monuments, the national parks, the national historic sites.
Right.
You could keep yourself very, very busy trying to visit all of them.
Like when I make films, it's also a trick where I try to submit it to festivals where places I just want to visit.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if the festivals has any credibility whatsoever. I just really want to visit that area.
Yeah.
So
we had a film at the Jerome Film Festival in Arizona this summer. And my former co-host of the podcast and I, she also starred in the film. So we made a trip out of it. And, so it was in the Sedona region of Arizona. And Jerome's kind of like an old ghost town itself anyway. So it's just an interesting place to visit. But we did the film festival. We also went to the Grand Canyon and Walnut Creek, where the cliff dwellings are outside of Flagstaff. And we camped and just turned it into this whole 10-day journey.
Yeah. Like I have friends I have friends to visit in, LA and San Francisco. But if they're not around, I'll just go to a park.
Yeah.
I'll just go to Redwoods instead of San Francisco.
Yeah.
I had because I got I already reserved a B&B for myself in March for Yosemite. And my friend from San Francisco said, "Oh, I'll go there with you." And I said, "You're not invited." This is me and God time. You know, God, quote unquote. I'm probably an atheist technically. But the wonders of nature. Getting
out in nature helps you feel connected to the universe.
I felt that way in Maine. I think because when I took the week off in Maine, and it's such a little, the Celebration Barn is such a little retreat. It's actually a barn, and they've decked it out so it's kind of like dormitories plus a theater, a live theater where they do performances every weekend. And of course, the stars in Maine are just unbelievable, and you're just in the middle of nature. There are moths all over the place as big as your hands, but it's okay because they belong there. If that was in my apartment in New York City, I would probably move. And it's just being away and interacting with a bunch of human beings not from New York City is just really, really nice.
Yeah.
Oh, there's an abandoned...
Someone left their jacket in the table next to us.
I mean...
Interesting. It's like a no-no to leave stuff behind in New York.
Well, it's one, because don't you think it's going to get stolen?
I think you just forgot it. I don't know.
Yeah.
There was this moment on that trip to Arizona. We did the kind of camping where you don't go to a campground. They call it dispersed camping. So we just drove on this dirt trail out into the wilderness and found this nice quiet spot and pitched a tent. Middle of the night. It's up in the mountains just south of the Grand Canyon.
Oh.
And it was the most serene, quiet, fantastic place to be. The only sound was a light breeze in the treetops.
Oh, that's kind of creepy. As a New Yorker, I'm like, that's scary.
It was
Silence
amazing.
Is scary.
It was a little weird because, Kristen sat in the car for a while I was pitching the tent. So I was alone, kind of out in the wilderness, pitching a tent with just that sound. And it was a little creepy for a bit. But
you worried about mountain lions?
It was so beautiful, and the stars were amazing.
It's the stars in Arizona and Maine. For some reason, they just get better views of the stars.
You're so far away from a lot of artificial city light.
Yeah.
The most amazing stars I ever saw was in the Gulf of Alaska when I was working on a boat.
I can imagine.
Unbelievable. It was just shooting stars constantly.
Yeah, same thing in Maine.
Yeah.
I saw 3 shooting stars in 10 minutes.
It was so beautiful. And I feel bad for people who've never had that experience.
Yeah.
Because it really is something else to kind of feel that connection to the universe. And I don't think you ever feel that feeling when you're
in the
very
city.
Deep in the skyscrapers and
it's a different thing
lost
because
in the city.
You're in I'll definitely, how every BuzzFeed article, 33 things that all New Yorkers think or something about why you should leave New York, and it always ends but that view or something. I am not plugging BuzzFeed, by the way. But sometimes I'll be walking in New York City and I'll just look at the view and I was juggling very recently in Hunters Point Park in Long Island City, right along the water. And I just thought, it's not nature, but it's, you know.
Well, it is
the power of-
awe-inspiring.
Yeah, it's pretty. I can understand why people come here and feel inspired because it's something they haven't ever seen from wherever they're coming from, too.
Right. Well, the New York skyline, Chicago skyline, a lot of the big skylines, for me, it's awe of man.
Yeah, exactly.
And kind of our desperate attempt to master nature.
Yeah, well, I mean, because there's something very specific about New York that allows this in terms of its, I guess, the bedrock and everything.
Yeah.
And you're just,
You can't build like this everywhere.
No, but there's something about the desert, too. I feel like the desert's like my second favorite place.
Yeah.
So, because when I say Las Vegas, there's also, it's the most disgusting place on earth. For some reason, I'm obsessed with it. I don't even really drink. Seeing those like sprawling mountains and deserts and cacti and I don't know, it's just.
Have you gone out to the Red Rocks?
No.
Outside of Vegas?
No.
Make sure you do that next time you go to Vegas. Go to the Red Rock Park. It'll blow you away.
How far away was that from Vegas?
It's just outside of Vegas on the west side of town, I believe. It's worth the drive. It'll take you 45 minutes or something from the Strip.
One of my favorite things is like if I get the window seat on a plane is coming from my skyline and landing in their New York casino skyline, where we're just like, you couldn't even do it to scale. Why is the Statue of Liberty bigger than the Empire State Building? Come on,
that's funny, right?
Come on, people. Come on, it's hilarious to go to some like like some casinoized version of your city.
Vegas is a weird experience in and of itself.
Yeah, I love it for the clowns. I love it for the entertainment. I think the art in Vegas, if you really look at some of it, is some of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's how. Like, I saw this one really inspiring magic, like daytime magic show where this guy, his name's Matt King, and he's been doing the same show probably for like years upon years, twice a day in the same casino, and he just still seemed so invested and fresh.
Right.
And like genuinely thankful and into everything he was doing. I was like, that's really inspiring.
Yeah.
There's a lot of inspiring art in Vegas, I think.
There's
that's why I like
a lot
it so
of
much.
uninspiring art.
Of course
in Vegas
there is. There is. It's totally how you look at it. But I love going to Vegas because I feel like I can be my worst self. And when I say my worst self, I mean I can drink a pina colada. No one will judge me.
While walking down the street.
Right, exactly. Like that's my worst self is drinking that pina colada. Because if someone were to order a pina colada, they would, from my restaurant, we're not Red Lobster.
Yeah, Vegas is kind of like one giant Red Lobster.
Yeah. I know it's completely false, but I love it.
That's hilarious.
I'm just like, this shouldn't even belong here. This is weird.
So, you just launched your website?
Yeah, I did.
And it's
PamelaWess.com. Yeah.
Okay, so people can check you out there, and they can see your short films.
Yes.
And you said you're just getting ready to start working on a feature?
Well, so we're looking for funding for a feature, which is the condition I feel most features spend a lot of time in. And we're in post for the next short. So, yeah.
Cool.
Constantly writing, too.
As far as the funding thing goes, remember that, like, The Bodyguard, right? The Whitney Houston, Kevin Costner movie? That movie took 13 years to get financed.
One of my biggest lessons in New York City was the first internship I got with a guy named Steven Shainberg, and he did the movie Secretary, and like great, wonderful human being, and like his film got greenlit. I was 23 at the time, so I guess that was about 7 years ago. His film got greenlit with like a bunch of celebrities, and I was set to be his assistant in Bulgaria. And I was like, this is my big break, whatever the hell that means, as someone who actually wants to be an artist, not a PA.
Right.
And then the lead actor drops out and all the funding goes with him. And to this day, he is still trying to get that film funded. To this day.
It's a rough business.
It is and that was, I think, my first lesson in film.
Yeah. I have a short that I'm trying to produce by the end of this year that I had lined up funding for last year. It's a short that's really a pitch to a series. And I had all the money lined up last summer, and the woman who was going to finance the film came down with stage 4 cancer. Found out literally at the doctor's office, like the day we were going to finalize the deal and sign all the paperwork.
How does that happen?
She's like, I'm sorry, I've got to save my life
with this money.
So all my money's got to go to that. I was like, I get it. But, you know, it's I
feel every time a film happens, it's a miracle, even if it's like a weird, like, short that I'm making with my iPhone.
Any movie that gets completed is a small miracle.
Yeah.
Across the board. Doesn't matter how long a film it is.
Yeah.
Just to get it to the finish line is a huge, huge thing. Mm-hmm. So
just right at the end.
So we will keep an eye on PamelaWess.com and follow your career as it blossoms.
Yeah.
And when you come out to California, make sure you reach out and
say hi.
You know, say hi because, you know, that's my hood.
You're right. It is. Absolutely.
You can come out and we can podcast in California. You can tell me what you think of our state. Okay.
Okay. Nice meeting
you.
Cool.
Thanks, Pam.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello there, citizens. I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the floaty that will not flush no matter how many times you try in the toilet bowl of crime. I am Darkwing Duck, telling you please, talk hard and enjoy the mindgasm. Whatever the heck that means. After all, you are watching Intellectual Podcast with your ears.